Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. Today we're here with Alex Hill, who's the owner of Assetworx. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I am good, and I'm looking forward to this one because I do skew very far to Mother Earth and hippieism and being nice to the planet, which is kind of a part of your business, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Founding story of Assetworx.
So I was going to school, local college here. I was 20 years old, 21. I was buying computers online and flipping them just to make some extra money while I was going to school. And then I found some companies that do similar to what we do now, actually direct competitors now. And I was starting to buy stuff from them, like tons of stuff from them. And I was selling it. Next day, me not knowing much about the industry, and I was selling it. I was tripling, quadrupling my money with it. And I realized, wow, there's something here. And the biggest thought I had was I knew how the industry kind of worked, where people get stuff from their clients, and how it works is like a revenue share.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that this company was, the companies that were giving their equipment to this competitor weren't getting the value out of it that they should have been if a 20-year-old was buying it all and flipping it and making more money than a company that's been in it for 15 years. So that's when it was born. Like we started in my garage, in my house in Orem, little 2-car garage, and it's just grown since then.
Very cool. And what the premise of what you guys do is?
So it's electronic recycling is what people see it as, but it's more, the industry is called the ITAD industry. So it's IT asset disposition. So we help companies, data centers, all sorts of things with their out-of-date surplus electronics. So we're talking when big companies have thousands of computers, laptops, desktops, we come in and take it all and do all the data destruction, making sure that personal data is safe. And then we resell it for those companies if possible, and then recycle it if not possible. As well as like big stuff, data centers, where in Utah, that's becoming a big thing, data centers, and we'll go in and that's high-end security, data destruction. We pull it out of there and help offset some of the energy use that they have with that recycling that we do.
Very cool. And the end result doesn't end up in a landfill.
Yep.
Do you have any stats off the top of your head?
So when you come down to like in the worldwide, we're doing like 50 million tons a year in e-waste, and that's growing exponentially every year. And the majority of that, like a huge percentage of that, is ending up in a landfill, right? So for us, we're removing millions of pounds a year of that. Like for instance, one client last month, we did, I think it's 45,000 pounds in just 1 or 2 pickups of equipment that could have ended up in a landfill or not recycled properly or just ended up somewhere. And that also includes things that are like reused and resold. I view reuse as like the greatest form of recycling.
Yeah.
But also includes things that are being strictly broken down to minerals. So.
Gotcha. So let's say, in a bad example, I had a company with 100 folks, and they all had computers and iPads and things like that. But as a company, we won the lottery for $1 billion, and we thought, well, it's better we'll just retire. We would call up you and we'd say, do your best, just make sure the hard drives are taken care of and it doesn't end up in the ocean somewhere.
Yeah.
And we're done.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically. I mean, it depends on the company and the magnitude of what their security requirements are.
Yeah.
The industry used to be, I'd say it's like a 20-year-old industry. So it's fairly new for what it is. It used to be very much like companies like me would come in and pick it up for free and then we'd sell it on the back end, give you a cut back, and we'd hope to make our money back for any expenses when we sold it. The industry is definitely changing. People used electronics were crazy during like COVID, but have dumped way down and even have gone below the regular depreciation rate that was before COVID. And so we're hoping it'll bounce back, but it's not super sustainable to do that anymore, especially since a lot of companies are no longer caring as much as how much they're getting back, but data destruction and environmental is like becoming the thing that is important.
Yeah.
When it used to be, we were a service, but we were selling hardware. Now it is more, we provide a service, and it's great that you get money back, and we are the best at getting you the money back, but we're also the best at providing the service where you don't have to worry about where it's going. You don't have to worry about the data destruction, and you know that things are being taken care of. So that's a crazy part of the industry that's moving towards. and it's expanding every day within that.
Yeah. So the data destruction is obviously like important if
Yeah.
you're picking up computers from the DoD,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure they have their own protocols and everything,
Yeah.
but they're just not going to leave those on the side of the road
Yeah.
for waste management.
Yeah, for sure.
So what certifications, once we're in this field, I assume there's regulations and controls and like verify that you didn't just go throw it in the Jordan River.
Yeah. So there's certain like standards that like, we have like NIST standards that are like a standard on how to do it. But a lot of the certifications in the industry are mostly like privately regulated. So we have one called R2, it's version 3. We have like 3 ISOs for quality and different things like that. And we're audited twice yearly to people to come in, they check and make sure our processes and everything is in line, right? But yeah, there isn't actually a ton of widespread regulation, and a lot of companies aren't aware of it. Like, we have a lot of regulation, a lot of certifications, but then you see companies who you go and tell them, hey, we have these certifications, but this is kind of what it's going to cost because we keep up with those. And they say, oh, we don't really care.
Yeah.
Then they go give it to someone who then ends up, I know people who do end up throwing it in the dumpster, anything that's not valuable, right?
Yeah.
And so building awareness for that, but it's happening more and more, I think, within the industry. And then it comes down to as well as like what level of security you need. We have clients that literally shred hundreds of thousands of hard drives every year. Like it will not leave their facility without being shredded to a powder. And then others, we take it to our site and wipe it, or we'll take it to our site and shred it. But it just depends on the regulations that a lot of it's set within the company. And then there are the overlying ones, but mostly private.
Yeah. Shredding of hard drives seems like a pretty fun thing.
Yeah. Just pulverizing them. It's sad because hard drives hold a ton of value, but at the same time, it is the only way to 100% guarantee that data is not going to get lost.
Yeah.
But it is a huge loss. If you're thinking like money-wise, revenue-wise, whatever, it's like a company that's shredding hundreds of thousands of drives a year is losing millions and millions of dollars, but it's worth that to them because whatever data leak happens would be way worse.
And that's where some skeletons are in the proverbial closet as well.
And it is also trying to figure out like the industry. Like there's people I talk to are like, oh, we have to have it shredded. And it's because 10 years ago when they got into IT, that was true. Like wiping softwares and different methods really weren't as efficient. Yeah. But nowadays we're so far with it that a wipe versus shred is pretty much the same. It's just, is one going to accidentally slip through and not get wiped? Yeah. That's the worry.
Gotcha. So like if you got a hand-me-down Mercedes-Benz that was 2 years old, you'd be happy, right?
Oh yeah.
Same thing with like a computer that like some high-end engineer is using and that just is a titch too slow now.
Yeah.
Just in this one example, they would either take the hard drive out and deal with it themselves, or they would give it to you and you guys would do it. But then you could reuse that machine and give it to a school or resell it, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. So we actually just, we have a couple different things. So we resell it is our main business, right? But we actually have other shoot-offs where we do like charity projects and things like that. Especially with some of the big companies we work with, they may have equipment that's not super desirable on the secondhand market, but still has a ton of value to people. And so we actually are partnering with right now a local nonprofit where we're going to be bringing electronics to some of the local Indian reservations.
Oh, cool.
So that's going to launch end of the year, where we're bringing those to them. And so there's a lot of impact that can happen from this industry where companies are seeing, okay, our electronics are being donated, our electronics are being recycled, and we're also getting a cut back for whatever it is.
Yeah.
So people love it. They eat it up.
Yeah. And there's like some valuable metals in finite amounts in most electronics, right? Like gold, copper.
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of people think, oh, it's a lot of gold, but there's actually not as much gold. Well, I guess there is gold, but it's not the majority of where you're going. So like any like your big smelters, things like that, it's going to be other precious metals for use back into the electronics. Whether that may be like recycling industry with car batteries or solar panels is getting big.
Yeah.
And pulling those things out for use is insane.
Yeah. So in the early days, you mentioned your age and like you had done it to get through school and you saw an opening. How have you started to like build your business with, getting clients, with setting up supply chain and logistics and coordinating the pickups, the drop-offs, all of that.
Yeah. If you ask any of my friends, or people know me, I'm very much of a person like, let's do this, right? Let's just make it happen. And that's the kind of the culture we try to harbor at Assetworx is let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's make things go forward. So with starting to find clients, like early on, I didn't have much expertise in sales, but I knew people. I knew people from high school. I knew people from other places. And actually, one of my first clients was a board member here, who connected me with a client and started snowballing from there. And I think it was a lot of hustle starting off. And I still do it. We're 5 years in, and we're going. And right before we were here, I was going and knocking doors at clients around here. And that's been super effective. Growing the operations has been another thing. I am very passionate about operations, and making sure that, a little background with the industry too is electronics depreciate. Once they hit like a 3-year period and they're out of warranty, they depreciate insanely fast. And so one thing that a lot of companies in the industry do, they take 4 to 6 to 8 months to sell this equipment. And by then it's lost a ton of value. And so one of my selling points is we're more efficient. We just sell it faster.
Yeah.
And that also means we have to be able to process it faster, wiping it, testing it, because we have very like strict testing protocols. And so setting that up has been a lot of work, but a ton of fun. So it's been Utah's been great. Like I would say I love Utah because there's so many people who want to help.
Yeah.
Like early days, and even now, I'd go to people I looked up to who were big names in the community and talk to them, and they were very willing to help people. That's what it's all about. And I would say that was a massive part in helping me figure out operations, sales, and just life in general, honestly. But so that was super effective in making that happen. And then the other thing is finding people who can help you do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And pricing it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
In the early days of hustling, let's say you went in and the timing was perfect where they said, yeah, I've got 5,000 computers that I want gone.
Yeah.
My guess is you'd kind of be making it up on the fly at that point.
Of like taking care of it?
Yeah.
I had a pretty good understanding of what the industry was. I'd done my like market research and figured it out pretty good. And at that time, like there wasn't, I tried a lot of things. I'd go buy stuff from like, there's like government auctions. I'd buy a lot of stuff. I remember driving to Reno one day and back to pick up a bunch of stuff and I didn't have at that time we didn't have the operations to manage a ton of stuff. But now that we've grown, I've really tried to build it so whether it be 100 computers or 5,000, we can scale our operation to no matter what. So building out processing stations that are duplicable, like we can just duplicate it in a minute, build another one out and have double our processing within a few days. That's been huge.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I would say starting off, like I think everyone flies by the seat of their pants a little bit.
Yeah. People are familiar with like computers and things they use.
Yeah.
And, you've got people that use things that are 10 years old and they say it works perfectly fine. And then you have those that every 6 months they want something new. I think it's kind of just personality, but with the data centers, most people aren't familiar with what those are, but they kind of make the world work.
Yeah.
What's a new server 6 years ago? Is that still in use? Like, what is the life cycle for these servers?
Usually 3 years.
3 years.
3, 4. Some companies are pushing it a little bit more now. Whether it just changes. Like we're with a pretty big company whose stock recently, like they've taken hits over the last few years, and so they've extended their life cycle to save money. Understandable. But mostly it's 3, 4 years. And a lot of companies are constantly moving data centers, because these are getting priced out and not enough space. And when they move, they completely start from new usually. So we're coming in and picking us up, and there could be stuff that's literally brand new sitting there, but no, we're moving on to the bigger and better thing. And it's understandable for data centers as it being a mission critical thing where your business would literally not run without it.
Yeah.
So it's always the newest, best, hyper secure, and protected.
Yeah.
So really just coming to your client, knowing which one it is. Data destruction is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So.
And the metal shelves just sit there like little skeletons and new stuff goes in.
Basically, like the whole industry is crazy. You have like co-location, which co-location is you rent space, rack space, or you have your own location. And a lot of those spaces are just it's insane. People don't even realize what goes behind making that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, the life cycle is typically 3-4 years. So there's usually actually a good amount of resellable value there that companies can get back. But like I said, it's data destruction.
Yeah.
And as well as environmental. I mean, there's a big company we work with who their biggest footprint is their data centers. It pulls 90% of their power as a company, which is insane. And so they're trying to offset that, and any environment, any recycling we do offsets that to help them be carbon neutral by their scheduled date that they want. So,
which benefits everyone.
Exactly.
Not even their customers.
Yeah, for real.
I love it. Yeah. You mentioned a few other things, electric car batteries and then solar panels.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs oftentimes struggle to not chase the new squirrels.
Yeah.
How are you and your team kind of figuring out what verticals are best, timing, and like overall aptitude to take that bite out of the elephant?
It's a great question. One thing like in our culture we talk about is, when we're making a decision, we say what would the best company in the world do? And then we do that, right? And so until we can fully say that we are the best at what we're doing, and it doesn't mean we have to be the biggest company in the world to be the best at it. We're trying to stay pretty strong with what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We want to be the best at this, make it happen, do things. And yeah, there's other opportunities where we'll probably move eventually. But we're mostly focusing on just being the best at what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So
you've mentioned Utah and that it was a great kind of Trojan horse.
Yeah.
That's a big advantage to actually work and live in the same place.
Yeah.
But I'd assume there needs to be growth, and Utah's just a small little speck on the map.
Yeah.
How do you grow this to new markets?
It's a great question. So we actually have clients, we have a bunch of clients at Pacific Northwest, some California. We're out in Denver pretty frequently. The easiest way to make it happen is because of our certifications, we have connections to a network of people with those certifications. So say we bring on a client in New York, I have a partner out there who can handle the equipment for us. And if it's enough, we can bring it back to us in Utah, ship it out here and take care of it. But we can have it taken care of out there, which is super awesome, especially with the certifications. So yeah, that's kind of the goal. I think we'll open up some satellite locations throughout the country. We've looked at Texas; it's pretty saturated there. Florida's less saturated. But we've looked kind of all over in that aspect to find different locations to help clients. Having someone on both sides of the country is nice as well.
Yeah,
especially with shipping and freight. So
yeah, well, it sounds like it's good overall. Like for this industry, there might be like competition in Texas, which is bad for you personally, but it's kind of a good sign for me that everyone's kind of like in the same boat now. Of like, we're not going to just throw this away. Yeah.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
It's getting there. I think a lot of it'd be nice to see more government regulation. I'm not one mostly for that, but I think it would be important for this to help companies realize we actually have to do this the right way.
Yeah.
People not understanding the implications of giving away a computer that doesn't have data, right?
Yeah.
And just education. We have a blog and different things like that we put out to try to help people understand, how can you have an effective IT asset management plan in-house? And if you're wiping them in-house, here are the best methods to do that. And we try to educate people on how to do that. And present them with their options. A lot of companies like to give them to their employees.
Yeah.
So the employee's done or something like that happens, they give them to their employees, and helping them understand the implications that come with that of, okay, you're going to have to you may run into problems with having to support that. You're going to have to erase that device. You're going to have to do you need to have some sort of certificate saying that you erased it. And then in the long run, does it make sense to do that? And so a lot of companies will have we'll take their equipment, we'll wipe it, do everything, and then we'll give their employees a discount code and they can come and buy it from us. Or we'll just give them the money back and they'll put it into some fund to help employees with something, right? But understanding those things, I think that there could be a lot more knowledge put out there for people. And the industry, one problem I had with the industry when we started this was the efficiency part, people were waiting forever, and then the transparency. There's a lot of big companies who were doing good, but there were some companies that were more fly by night. There's a guy I know, actually, I heard where he would go and just pick up stuff, and then you'd have these really toxic materials. We call them our Focus 5s, and he would go and drop like one in each dumpster across the city.
Oh boy.
And it's like, that was kind of the industry, you know, you just call your local guy and he comes, picks it up, takes it for free, and you never hear about it again.
Yeah.
And that transparency, you know, we've implemented a client portal so a client can look on and see exactly where their devices are at in the process. I just really didn't feel morally that was acceptable to just take the equipment and run.
Yeah.
So, and it's not scalable either. So
yeah,
it's
good for
it's
you.
great. So
good for you. All right. So are you guys bootstrapped? Are you looking at funding? How are you going to go?
bootstrapped,
Bootstrap.
100% bootstrap right now. We've looked into it. We'll see. It depends. Like right now, for instance, I've said security requirements. We're going to be moving to a new facility soon, because of the insane security requirements that some clients have. And so we're going to attempt to bootstrap it. We'll see how that works. And then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So
who gets to run the shredder?
well, most of the time we outsource our shredding, actually.
Okay.
So we don't keep one in our facility right now. We outsource most of it, and we all share it and things like that. But it's crazy with like what gets through and what not. Actually, early on, I was buying stuff from other companies, and I bought 500 computers from a company who does what we do in California. And I got these hard drives, and I wanted to look and just make sure they were actually done correctly, because I couldn't just go and sell a drive if it had something on it. Well, they had gone through and they had done what most of us would do and hit an erase on a computer, or reformatted is what we call it. Well, that's not actually efficient.
Yeah.
So I pulled up a software and I pulled and I recovered all the data.
Oh.
And it was a bank in California, and I found a folder that said super secret password, and it had all the vault passwords, all the codes. And people just don't think of that. Like, you're giving away a computer, you may be giving away, like a bank, your vault passwords, like very much. And I'm glad it ended up in my hands. You know, we ended up actually just wiping them and getting rid of them, but it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all fun and games until somebody gets that folder.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I love it. I'm so glad that you and your team are doing this, and others are as well. It's one of those, I think, proverbial win-wins where everyone benefits, including you, your customers, but overall, like society in general. There's not a bunch of toxic 5 or whatever you call them, just in dumpsters behind Smiths.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Very cool.
It's good. It's nice because it's great because we can provide value in more than one way to clients. I've always loved that as like a entrepreneur. I like being paid, I guess you could say, on the value that we create.
Yeah.
And we're providing value in so many ways.
For sure. If there's folks out there that want to recycle and get rid of their electronics, basically use your services, what's the best way?
So they can find us at assetworx.us.
And that's a WORX.
Yeah, WORX. So .us. Had to keep it kind of the tech vibe of Utah. Or they can call me or email me. It's just alex@assetworx.us. I'll throw that out there.
Love it.
I love it. But
cool. Thank you so much, Alex. Appreciate it.
Of course.